Hi, thank you for coming and welcome to the Dynavistics and eOne Popdock webinar. eOne has some exciting information to share with us, and they have Popdock. It is SmartList for the rest of your apps. So I'm going to waste no time and turn it over to Mary. Mary, welcome.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks for having us here today. I'm excited to talk with you all about Popdock. What you're going to see today is mostly live product, so it's going to be really exciting and informative, but I will go through a couple of things here. So my name is Mary Truis, and I work with the whole Dynavistics team and PM and the crew. I've got Rod O'Connor here today as well, who's one of our product specialists and is going to be doing the demo. If you're not familiar with eOne, somehow you're a GP customer and don't have an eOne product, a little bit about us. We are an ISV that's been around for about 20 years now. We just had our 20th anniversary party last September. We create no-code and low-code tools to automate processes for GP and a lot of other applications. So you might be familiar with us via Extender, SmartList Builder, Node Builder. Those are all eOne products that a lot of GP users have and have loved for many, many years. But today we are going to be talking about Popdock. So quick agenda. First, I'm going to go through what is Popdock. A lot of people, get the name wrong or have a bunch of questions on what the heck that tool does. We'll talk about where it kind of fits in with the GP reporting stack and other products that we offer around GP reporting. We're going to see the product in action, a nice live demo from Rod, and then we'll do a little licensing overview and next steps, mainly focusing on an exciting offer that we have for some existing eOne users. Okay. So a little bit about Popdock. You might be wondering, where does this app fit in with the rest of my products? I've already got SmartList Builder and SmartView, and I use some management reporter and other tools. Well, I think this is a really good infographic to help you guys understand where it fits in. So SmartList Builder and SmartView are products from eOne that you know and love and that you've used for a long time. They are only for Dynamics GP, and they're still tools that are the best way to get your data out of GP, report on it, build those queries that you need, and then share them with your users, have people save their own favorites and use those over and over again. Popdock takes all of those concepts and expands them in a cloud interface. So think of Popdock as SmartList Builder and SmartView in the cloud, but it's not limited to GP. As you can see here, we can work with all of your applications. If you have CRM systems, if you have a custom SQL database that you're using for something, an e-commerce or a credit card processing system, even marketing platforms, we are able to connect with all of that data, bring it together, and then take those concepts of SmartList Builder and SmartView and query the data, filter it, group it, sort it, do everything that you need to do, share it with your users. Where we take that concept a little bit further is in how we're able to share that data. And that we will touch on in the demo, and it'll make a little more sense when Rod starts going through all that. Some key components of Popdock that you're going to see today. First and foremost, it's an end user query engine, like I just talked about. We're able to grab all of the data that you need and do everything that you need to do to be able to report off of it and share it with your users. Everything that you will see today is real time. Popdock does not use data warehouses. It can, but it doesn't need to out of the box, which makes it very user friendly. You don't need to be a BI architect or a developer to be able to work with this solution. It's built for end users. When I talked about connecting with all your data, I really mean that. We have over 60 apps built out today, but we're able to connect to thousands of systems via APIs, SQL Server connections, all of that good stuff. So there's really no limit on what we can do. We can embed the data anywhere. So when I talked a little bit about sharing the data in a more meaningful way, we can take the lists that you build with Popdock, just like you had with SmartList Builder, but instead of having to have your users go into another system to access them, we're able to embed them in the systems they work in all day long. And we call those Popdock widgets, and Rod will talk a little bit about those in the demo. We provide actionable insights with this. So more than just viewing the data, there's some really interesting things that we're able to do with it. We help you migrate data with Popdock as well. So if you're interested in migrating to other solutions, maybe a Business Central, it's a good thing to take a look at there. And of course, we are SmartList Builder for Business Central. So we're going to focus more on GP users today. But if you're interested in Business Central or it's something you guys have been thinking about, we are able to use Popdock to act as SmartList Builder for Business Central because the native reporting options are a little limited in there. So that's a lot of information that I just went through. So I'm going to turn it over to Rod now so that he can jump into the demo here. I will stop sharing. I think, we're a fairly informal group, as Rod would say. So if you've got questions, type them in the chat box or even unmute yourself and we can try to get those answered for you.
All right. And Mary, you should be looking at my Popdock screen right now. Is that correct?
Yep.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Windows did the renumbering my Windows thing. All right. Well, as Mary said, everyone, my name is Rod O'Connor, and this is a fairly informal presentation. I do have a few things I want to make sure that we get through, but if you guys have questions as we go along, please throw them in the chat and let us know. So as Mary mentioned, Popdock takes really all the best things that we loved about SmartList and SmartView and SmartList Builder and really puts them together. One way that I often describe it is SmartView is our SmartList on steroids and Popdock is SmartList and SmartList Builder and SmartView on gamma radiation, because we've taken all of the cool features of those products and then given them all kinds of superpowers that we couldn't have imagined back in the day. So one of the first things we've introduced that you're not going to be used to from either SmartView or SmartList is this concept of visualizations. So you can see here, I've got a quick little dashboard that I've built, with a bar chart and a quick number box. Now, we're not replacing tools like Power BI, like Mary said, we're fitting into your reporting stack. But I mean, it's nice to have some light visualizations there that you can look at right here inside. And I'll show you a couple of other examples of visualizations as we go along. Okay, so our bailiwick is really list-driven data, just like SmartList, just like SmartView. We really want to get you down into the weeds and answering real questions. Okay, so our interface is very similar to what I'm used to. Oh, let me just get back to my actual favorite. Okay, so it's very similar to what I'm used to. I've got columnar data. Now, my interface is a little bit easier. For those of you who have used SmartView, you're going to notice this is very similar to what we had in SmartView. If you're coming from SmartList, we just made your life a little easier for how to add columns. So I simply select the columns I want to add. I'm going to click on Add Selected Columns here, and they're there. Now I can very quickly get rid of those as well if that was a terrible mistake. And I'm back to where I started. So we've really tried to streamline that interface from SmartList into Popdock. A couple other things that you're going to be used to is filtering. Now I'm going to get rid of a little of the GPTSD that some folks have when it comes to filtering in SmartList. If you haven't used SmartView in the past, I get way more than 4 of my filters. I can mix and match my ands and my ors, so I can really build out meaningful queries here. So those of you who are still on SmartList are probably used to getting to a report where, you know what, I need 5 or even 6 different parameters on this. And now I have to go to IT and have them build a SQL Server view and then bring that in through SmartList Builder. Now I don't have to do that. I can just build it out. But at the same time, we haven't lost any of the power here. So if I pull up a date field, for example, I've still got all the operators that I could want, my equals, my not equals, all of that, all in plain English. No need to learn anything. And then I've got either a fixed date that I can put in here, or I can switch this to my compare fields, and I've still got all of my compare fields. Now, one way we have streamed this a little bit, which I kind of like, I used to have to do a range. If I wanted month to date, I had to create a between start of month and today. Right now, I can just say it equals this month, and then I've got a month to date list. So that's kind of a fewer mouse clicks. Mouse clicks add up over the years. So it's nice to have a few that we can save here and there. Okay, as Mary mentioned, this is always in real time. So every time I click that refresh button and you see Skippy start skipping, I'm reaching into my source data and pulling that data out fresh and new. Okay, now I've also got the ability to move columns around while I'm in here, and I can even group by columns. Okay, so again, those SmartView users that are on the call, you've seen this before, but from SmartList perspective, I'm sorting and grouping on the fly. I don't have to take 5 minutes to drop this out to Excel and then build a pivot chart off of it. Okay, now one thing that none of you are used to when it comes to your GP data is this concept here, this multi-company reporting. So I can very quickly, if I want, add or remove companies from my list. So I could have a single list showing me data from all of my company databases. Now there's nothing I had to do for that. In both SmartView, SmartList Builder, SmartList, if I wanted to have a multi-company list like that, I had to do it at the SQL level first and then introduce that into my SmartList Builder to get that inside of GP. Here, all I had to do was create the list. Popdock understands the concept of multi-company. Now, here's what's kind of cool about that. That doesn't just apply to my GP environment. So if you have other environments that have this multi-organization concept, for example, maybe I've got an online store and I've got 3 Shopify stores, I can do that same multi-company reporting across those 3 stores in here inside of Popdock. Okay, which is pretty exciting from my perspective, because over the years I spent lots of time as a developer bringing that type of information together, and here I can do it in minutes. Okay, now one other thing that you're used to in both SmartView and SmartList is the concept of go-tos, and that allows us to really make use of our data. So there's kind of 2 different ways you can use it. You can drill into other information, or you can go to another part of the business or another part of the application to, look at an actual document, stuff like that. Now we've taken that concept of go-tos and we've broken it into 2 different things. The first one I'm going to show you now is called details. So I can select any record on this list, and you can see I've got all these little carrots around the outside. So if I click on map, for example, I'm getting a Google map of where this customer actually is. All right, so there's good old Alton Manufacturing. I can take a look at a visualization here of what are they purchasing, right? And notice the context is changing for these details as I move through the data. So I'm taking information from other places and putting it at the fingertips of my user. I call this my collections list, just as an example. And now while I'm talking to this customer, I can see what they're buying from me. I can see what is their year-to-date sales information. Okay, not only just in summary, but I can also take a look at all of their sales documents here and get a look at it. And finally, I do have the ability to kind of drill through and see what receivable transactions are under here. Now, if my customer doesn't believe me, I do have my ability to export to Excel the same way I'm used to. Now, for you, those of you who are on SmartView, you're used to that being wicked quick to get that data out of SmartView and into an Excel. We're the same way in Popdock. So where SmartList is reading it record by record, both SmartView and Popdock are just reading the whole thing and pushing it out. The nice thing about the Excel that gets created here is we actually create an Excel table within the workbook, and now you can very quickly use that table for a pivot or whatever you need to do. That's not the only way to get data out to Excel. I'll show you another way in just a couple minutes. Okay, so let me jump back here. So that's, from a kind of what am I used to and what can I expect standpoint, that's a lot of the big rocks here. I want to shift gears a little bit. And one of those pillars that Mary talked about was we can embed your data anywhere. Right. So let me jump over here to CRM. I'm just using CRM as an example here. This could be Salesforce. I'm going to show you Teams in a minute. This could be, any system that can accept an iframe is really the rule of thumb. I can embed what we call a Popdock widget in. Okay. I'm going to show you a Business Central one in a minute too. Just Mary mentioned conversion. I want to talk about that a little bit. Okay, we won't focus on it, obviously. But here you can see I've got a Popdock widget embedded inside of my Dynamics CRM. Now, what this is showing me is my ERP invoices. Okay, so all of my sales invoices. Now, what's really cool about this is we're not importing that data into CRM. We're simply exposing it through CRM. Now my salesperson has all of that same functionality we just talked about. So I can group by document number, for example, or maybe group by tracking number. They want to know what invoices were covered in a particular package. I can see that and I can answer my customers' questions right here on the fly. Okay, we've got one big old shipment here that covered a lot of things. I've got the ability to filter my data. So I'm all of that handy functionality that I just went through for you, that things we loved about SmartList and SmartView, I'm now putting in other solutions. Okay, now I'm going to jump a little bit. We as users of accounting or CRM software tend to focus a little too much on ERP and CRM. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about this tab right here. This is another Popdock widget, as you can see, with Skippy skipping away over there. Now, what we're doing here, Zendesk is an online help desk solution. Okay. So what it's doing here is reaching into Zendesk and pulling out tickets, not all tickets, the tickets related to this particular account. Okay, so the reason I like to show this is A, gets us outside of the ERP CRM spectrum. B, it's a REST API, which means we're reaching out to an application on the internet. And the third reason is I get to introduce you to actions from here. Now, a lot of systems will have the ability for us to call their code in some way. In Zendesk case, they have that REST API. And now from here, I can actually participate in this ticket. So I can add a comment to this ticket. Okay, I can go ahead and click on save. And now that is going to push that comment into my help desk solution. So think about that. I'm a salesperson. I'm sitting in my CRM. I get to look at all of my sales invoices from my ERP. I don't have to go to another solution to get that information. I don't have to phone a friend to get that information. Then at the same time, I can look at their help desk solution. I've never left my CRM, but I'm participating in the entire process. That's, to me, this is one of the coolest features of Popdock, is the ability to share it with everybody. Okay, so again, I'm going to switch gears just a smidge. I want to show you, this is another widget that I want to show you. I am inside Business Central. Mary mentioned, if you ever want to consider a move to another system, Business Central is one we're seeing come up quite a bit, which is why I use it as my example. We have the ability to help you during a data conversion. So you can see here, once again, I've got a Popdock widget embedded right here directly on my customer. Now, what's cool about this is I'm showing Business Central invoices, and I'm combining that with historical GP invoices. Now, those historical GP invoices are not being imported to my Business Central environment. So one of the biggest things you'll go through with any type of conversion, it could be a conversion from, I'm helping a company right now go from a homegrown CRM into Microsoft CRM. And that historical data is really hard to import to the new system. That's true of accounting solutions as well. So, but you don't want to lose that history. We love that history. So we have the ability in Popdock to help you store that data out on an Azure Data Lake, or you can leave it exactly where it is, your choice. And then we can help you mix it with your ongoing data and present it to your users in your new system, whatever that is. Okay, so that's another cool feature, another cool way to use Popdock. Okay, finally, I promised you I'd show you this in Teams as well. So that same collections list that I showed you earlier, I have that same information here inside of my Microsoft Teams. Now, most companies nowadays are running, many companies now are running Office 365, which means we have access to Teams. A lot of folks have employed it. We use it internally here at eOne. And all of that same functionality we talked about, right? So I can see my sales by item per customer. I can see my open sales my sales transactions for this customer. All of it is now fully embedded here inside of my Teams. We have a real world use case. Zendesk is one I'm going to pick on again. We have a lot of companies running Zendesk, and what we've done is, I don't know if you guys know this, but in any company that runs a help desk, there's usually escalation engineers, and they don't always like to participate in the help desk solutions. They don't like to log into it. So we've actually been tricking them. We're embedding that Popdock widget inside of Teams, and now inside of my Teams, I can review each ticket. I can do what I showed you earlier with adding comments or changing priorities. I can participate in the help desk solution without actually having to log into the help desk solution, which is pretty neat. All right, enough about widgets. I haven't been watching the chat, Mary. Hopefully you are, and you can shout out if there's a question along the way.
We've had a couple questions. I answered one in the chat box, but we'll call it out for everybody here. One question was, can we work with binary stream multi-entity management?
Yes, that's the short answer. I don't have a specific example set up, but we have plenty of customers both in GP and Business Central that are using them, and we've helped them all.
Yeah,
So,
and then another question came up about embedding, Popdock for GP historical information inside NetSuite.
yes, I don't have a specific GP inside of NetSuite example, but actually the very next thing I'm going to be talking about is connectors, and you'll see that NetSuite is definitely one of the connectors we have, and you can embed. I'll show you later on when we talk about widgets. Just remind me, Mary, and I'll show the suite. I forget what they call their language, this suite language that you use to embed. I think it's Apex that you use to embed inside of NetSuite.
Yep, and just a little more on NetSuite. It is a connector of ours, and I'm actually involved in a project right now where a company bought another company that's using NetSuite. So they're going to run GP and NetSuite concurrently and putting data from GP right inside that NetSuite system so they don't have to export things. So it's definitely something we're doing right now for lots of customers.
Good questions, guys. Yeah, Mary, if you think any of them are relevant to shout out, just stop me. At this point, I don't even know where I go to look at the chat, to be honest. So
For sure.
I'm just going to keep rambling. Okay, so with Popdock, I do want to talk real quick about connectors, and that does tie into our SmartList builder portion of the demo. Now, I do like to stop by, while we're in connectors, I do like to stop by this add connector. Again, just to get you thinking beyond the ERP CRM spectrum. For that user who is asking, here's our NetSuite connector, just to show you that we do have it as a standard. But we've also got lots of other things people don't often think about. Things like GitHub or Bugsnag or Bitly. My marketing group maybe is using Bitly. I do a lot of Twitter and a lot of links that I use. I run through my Bitly so I can track who's doing it. Well, now I can build a smart list about my Bitly, which is pretty cool. I don't know why I finger quoted Bitly. I don't know if you're looking at my video. So again, lots and lots and lots of choices out here for things that we've already connected to. Now, for things we haven't, that doesn't mean that we can't, right? So there's a lot of stuff not listed here that I have in fact connected to. And the way we can do that is through this connection here and this connection here. So a lot of you as GP users will have custom SQL databases, very, very common in the GP space. We can still connect to those and we can still use those. The REST service is pretty much anything that's online nowadays has a REST API available, which means we can now use those as data sources for Popdock as well. Okay, so when Mary said we can connect to anything, we really mean pretty much anything. Okay, now let me go back and get into my GP connector since we are focused on GP for today. It's this one that I like to use. All right, the first thing about every connect, now every connector is going to look roughly the same. So everything I show you as far as flexibility and changeability can be applied no matter what you're connecting to, NetSuite, Business Central, all of these other solutions that we've talked about. The first thing is we can customize everything about the connector from the name even to what we call our companies. We don't call our companies companies, we call them divisions. I can change that here and now everybody sees it as division. Okay, I can have my lists. Now, very much like SmartList, very much like SmartList Builder and SmartView. Everything here is kind of list driven, and there's a bunch of different things we can do with our lists. With our GP connector, we're going to give you 94 lists out of the box, and they pretty much match what you get from SmartList out of the box, maybe a couple of additional ones. If I wanted to add something else as a basic list, I have this ability to add lists. Okay, now when it's GP, I can pull in any of my existing smart lists. So whether I've built it using SmartList Builder or SmartView, or SmartList Designer, or if it's one of the out-of-the-box ones that I've just customized, I can bring that in now as a Popdock report, and I can share that now with people outside of my GP spectrum, right? So now I can share it with anybody who has an internet connection who I choose to set up as a user. At the same time, within those GP databases, so both in your Dynamics database and your company databases, I can access any SQL Server table or view simply by clicking on this and then clicking on display it for all companies. Once I click on add, that becomes part of my base lists within my Popdock. Now, from those base lists, I have lots of choices for what I can do here. If I don't like account transactions as the name, for example, I can call that GL account transactions. I have the ability to edit or add fields, okay, including custom fields. So I can create a calculated field. I've got two different ways to do that. So when I come in and add a calculated field, I get to, first of all, choose what am I returning? Lots of different data types I can return here, certainly more than I had in SmartList or SmartView. Okay. I also have the ability to use either SQL or a Popdock script. So a lot of times, especially in the GP space, I get folks who have, learned SQL over the years. They choose to keep using it. They can do that. But for everyone else, if you've ever written an Excel formula or used an Excel formula, you can use a Popdock formula. Pretty much the exact same list. So I would go through and I would choose, maybe I want to use a math function. I want to get my absolute value. I can put in a constant or I can use a field from my source. And notice here, something that I'm going to keep saying over and over when it comes to setting up a lot of this stuff, it's all just drop downs. I'm only making choices here. If I can use a drop down, I can use Popdock. Go ahead and save that. And now you can see it's created my formula for me. It looks just like an Excel formula. If I happen to know this, I don't have to go through the drop downs, by the way. I could just type this in if I wanted. Okay. So that's adding our fields and stuff. We can add restrictions to a list, and these filters are actually kind of cool too. The filters that we have an example here at eOne Solutions. We have a list of all of our projects. We have a lot of customers, so we have a lot of projects within this list. Rather than load the list and then try to filter it down to the one customer we're looking for, we have a filter variable where as soon as I click on refresh, it pops up a little question box and says, who are you looking for? And you can type in part of a customer name, and then it'll pull up only the projects where that value you entered is existing in the customer name. It's pretty slick. Okay, now those details that I showed you, everything that were around the side and at the bottom, I just want to show you real quick. Those, again, they looked real cool. They looked real codey, but anybody who can click on a drop down can use this. We're just making choices. So in this case, do I want to see a list or a summary? Or when I showed you that map, that was an iframe. Okay. If it is a list, do I want to see it as a chart, like I showed you with the items that they were purchasing? Do I want to see it as an actual detailed list, like the sales orders I showed you? Where do I want to see it? Right? All of these things are just choices that we make. Okay, so as you can see, we've got ultimate flexibility with each of these things. Now, what I haven't shown you is what we call custom lists. And this is, again, a real powerful part as far as I'm concerned. With our custom lists, this is where we start to mix and match our data. Okay, so we've got a couple that, frankly, I consider them the boring ones. We've got restricting data and summarizing data, which do exactly what they say they do. Summarizing is just going to be pre-grouping my data so I can see transactions by warehouse, by COGS account, for example. Restricting, again, maybe I had a company once who had 6 divisions. They wanted to create 6 versions of the list. We used restricting data. So these three, though, are the real powerful ones for me. So the first one I like to talk about is a join list. Everybody on this call who's ever used any reporting tool ever, including SmartList Builder, has created a join list. That's where I take two or more tables, or lists as we call them, and I build a relationship between those so that I can take records that span both tables, right? My collections list, for example, was only reading ERP data, but I could join that to my CRM and I could add phone, fax, and email preferences for each of those customers as well, right? So now I've taken data that spans two different systems and given my user all that information. And I didn't make it clear when we talked about details, but that can come from other solutions too. So my GP customers collection list could have a CRM opportunities detail or open support tickets detail. All of those things are 100% doable. All right, so that's our join list. A merge list, I did show you an example of this, and we talked about it when we talked about that data conversion concept, that same NetSuite and GP person who asked earlier. So what a merge list can do is take two different lists, they can be from the same system or different systems, and combines them into a single list. So the example I showed you took a list of GP historical transactions and a list of ongoing Business Central transactions and created one sales transaction list that I can now query and show per user and get life-to-date information. As I mentioned earlier, we're seeing that used more and more and more in these types of conversions. Serial number or lot number tracking is a big one for that. Just purchasing data, all kinds of things. Okay. Just so you know, merge lists do have other uses. That's just the most easily explainable one. Now a compare list, what that does is it compares two lists. So it looks at one list and looks at another list to find records from the first list that either do or do not exist in the second list. My favorite example of how we used that is we had a partner who had created a customization in the project module. And whatever they did, not all of the transactions when they got posted in the project module were making it through to the general ledger. So we created a compare list that compared posted project transactions to general ledger transactions that came from the project module and showed us all the posted project transactions that didn't exist in the GL. Took us less time to build it than it just took me to explain it. And they had the reconciliation report and they were able to go off, fix the GL, but also I start to identify what types of transactions were not making it all the way that they should. So those are our custom lists. And again, it's really powerful when you start to mix and match data from multiple systems. Okay. How are we doing on questions? Oh, there's the chat.
We are good on questions right now.
Okay, good. So the last thing I want to touch on, and I do this, I do the boot camp for this, and 8 hours is not enough for me to cover everything. For today, I really wanted to familiarize yourself with, all of that power that you have from SmartList and SmartList Builder and SmartView, and make sure you understand that all of that is still here, only bigger. I do want to show you one, I'm going to call it new superpower. Oh, actually, I told you I'd show you widgets too. All right, let me jump over to widgets because we had that NetSuite person who asked about embedding, but just you guys in general might want to see it. With these widgets, again, drop downs, making choices. We've got different types of widgets out there. We do have a boot camp, lots of training available for you. Don't worry, you're not just thrown out to the wind with all of this. But we choose what type of widget this is. We choose where the data is coming from. We enter parameters, which allow us to, that's how we make sure that our widget is context sensitive. So I showed you, I could show you tickets, but not only all the tickets for the specific account that I was on. Okay. So I make my choices for what folks can do. Can they refresh it? Can they use the action, stuff like that? I can even see what it's going to look like depending where I embed it. Right, so I can see what it would look like in NetSuite or BC or CRM or wherever I'm going to embed it. Okay. Now here's the important bit that I wanted to show you guys. Once I've made all my choices, what I have to do now is embed it. And how I embed it is going to depend on where I embed it. So I can take this link, and anywhere that accepts an internet address, I can put that and have a Popdock widget. I can literally copy this and drop it into my Google Chrome and go there and be in the widget. Okay, I've also got iframes here. Now this widget ID is what I use to embed in Teams. It's what I use to embed in Business Central and in a couple other places. But for everything else that doesn't use this link or this widget ID, we've got code builders here. So for my NetSuite function that I have to build, we're giving you the code that you need to put into NetSuite to embed that particular widget. If I have any Salesforce folks on the call, we give you the Apex code. Sorry, I got the Apex mixed up with the NetSuite earlier, guys. Okay, now out on our blog, so if you go to popdock.com, click on blog and search for the word embed, we've got full instructions for all of the systems we've talked about today for how to embed a widget, including sample code if any code is needed. Again, depending on that solution. So we've made it as easy as we possibly could for you to embed these things in these other systems. Okay. So that's widgets. The last thing I wanted to show you is I hinted at something earlier that there were two ways we could get data out to Excel. Doesn't matter how many times I show really cool products to accountants, they always ask me if I can get data out to Excel. I showed you one way, the quick and dirty way, where I can take what's on my screen and drop it out to an Excel table. We've also got this concept of API endpoints. And again, we're just making choices. And this part is maybe, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. So I can take, for example, my GP data. I can choose whichever data I want to choose from my list. Let's go to our sales because that's most common. Okay, and maybe I want to take my sales transactions. Okay, and I can go right down to the favorite. So we all know that favorites allow us to put columns in a particular order, put certain filters in place. We can use that as our source for this API endpoint. Now, all I have to do is copy this link right here. So I click on this. Now I can go out to Excel, to Power BI, to Tableau, to anything that can accept a REST API address. And I can use that as a data source in those applications. Okay. So for the more IT type folks who were paying attention, in about 30 seconds, I just built a REST API around my GP data. And I didn't have to write any code to do that. That's really cool. Okay, now for everyone else, what this means is I have an efficient way to combine data from multiple systems, and now I can expose that to my Power Query where I can start to make it, all of those cool visualizations. Some of you may know that I also teach Power BI classes from time to time, so I can use all of this data within Power BI to get all of those cool visualizations, but it's pulled much more efficiently than Power Query does it. All right, so I got through my big rocks. I don't see any new questions, but if you have them, please throw them in. But without further ado, I will throw it back to Mary until we see more questions.
Rod, one thing I'd like to touch on as we're kind of on this home screen here, our little dashboard, is that this is something that's going to look different to everyone. And I think what you did a good job of here, Rod, is showing that there's really something for everyone with Popdock. Our CEO is going to be at a conference next week. We'll all be there with the Dynavistics team, and he'll be on Popdock while we're standing at the expo booth, nudging us all with his elbow, asking how our sales are doing. As a salesperson, I'm in here every day looking at daily sales, what products are selling, what partners are bringing in. Our services manager comes in here and checks budget to actuals on project hours. There's really just something for everyone in the organization to do here, extending that power of SmartList Builder that was kind of reserved, I think, to the accountants, and really blasting this out to the entire team so that everyone can use that data in the way they want to use it. So I think that's a good takeaway from the session today. Rod, we did have
Absolutely.
a question in here around training. How technical do I need to be to benefit from a training session? You lead a lot of our Popdock boot camps, so would you want to touch on that?
You don't need to be any more tech. Did I unmute myself? Yeah. You don't
Yeah.
need to be any more technical than you were with SmartList or SmartList Builder. There might be a couple times where if you're connecting to a new REST API, you might want some help because maybe you don't understand the concept of paging. But I mean, for the GP stuff, if you can use SmartList Builder, you can definitely use Popdock. And really, for most of our connectors, that's going to remain true. I've trained many end users who are not IT, who are not technical people. And they're walking away from it very excited and doing some very cool things with the product.
Definitely. I'm one of those end users that was trained by Rod to use this, and I'm not technical at all. And I'm in there every day doing all kinds of different things. We've actually had quite a few salespeople, marketing people, people outside of IT and accounting start attending these trainings because they're putting Popdock throughout the entire organization, and they're learning all kinds of different ways to use this and self-serve better, not have to ask accounting for all that data they're always wanting to see. So it's definitely something that the entire organization can benefit from in those training classes. So next steps here. Evaluate your current environment. Look at all the apps that you have today. Work with your team at Dynavistics to take a look at what you've got going on and see when and where Popdock would be able to add value in what you're currently doing. I always recommend that people kind of take stock of everything that they have in their business applications environment at least once a year and decide where they can find some efficiencies. We have a free trial option for Popdock. So if you're interested and curious and think, you want to test some things out, call Rod to the carpet on exactly how user-friendly it is. Get in there, start playing with it, reach out to the Dynavistics team, reach out to the eOne Solutions team. We're here to help you. We have a massive knowledge base on Popdock as well on our website. So there is no shortage of information. When you start a trial or you start working with the product, you are not alone out there on an island. We have so much information for you guys to make the most of that and start working with the solution. So please reach out to the Dynavistics team and the Run Biz team because they're here to help you. They're an excellent partner of ours and they can help you evaluate Popdock and make the most of it as well. Figure out if it's the right solution for you. All right, that's all I have for today. If you've got any questions, we can put them here in the chat box. Let me pull that back up here.
Oh, yep, looks like we have a question.
All right.
So someone did ask, what if we are Smart Connect customers? No SmartList Builder / viewer.
Okay, so if you're not using SmartList Builder or Smart View today, that wouldn't be eligible for the promotion. But if you are using Smart Connect, it's really good for you to evaluate Popdock. They work very well together. We have tons of customers that are using both. We talk about integration as a spectrum these days. A lot of things that we would have traditionally built a Smart Connect map for to move data from one system to another, it's a really good place to figure out, did I need to do that, or would just embedding that data from a Popdock widget be the better solution there? Would it make more sense? Would it be easier and more meaningful to the users?
So Mary, eOne is known to be a company that produces good products, good service, good people, and we really do enjoy working with eOne. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was a wonderful demo, and I really love the power and the freedom that this product offers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us today. If
Thank
there's
you
any
very much.
questions, get those over to Pam and Zoltan and the whole team, and we'll get together and see if we can get those answered for you.